Why, hello, it is I, Chris Brogan. Welcome to this, your brief for Monday, October 23rd, 2017. Whoosh, this month is just flying right by. This story, this news that I create for you, the idea is very simple. I have all kinds of stories that I have looked at, read, thought are kind of interesting and have some context to why they might change your future in some way or drive human interactions in some different way. And I want to supply those for you and give you some ideas. If you want to follow along with the story, you can go to chrisbrogan.com/cbm. You don't have to follow my ideas exactly. You can click through and read all the stories for yourself, find all the links. If you want to make a show like this for yourself, I use Ecamm Live, which is the easiest way to do Facebook Live for a Mac. So without further ado, let's just dig right in. I have two stories back to back that I found kind of interesting with regards to blockchain and not specifically Bitcoin. The first is that MasterCard is going to do a blockchain B2B payments platform. Now, the way this article is written here on Cointelegraph, they're saying, despite rejection of Bitcoin. It's really important because a lot of people aren't quite down with what Bitcoin does or means, but blockchain, the underlying technology below it, is something that a lot of banks and payments are going to take on and look at, and payment processors are going to take on. So for instance, this big opportunity is going to really help with this whole blockchain platform kind of moving itself forward. And I think that there's something to bear witness to there. And to me, there's just really going to be a lot of opportunity. Paul says hi from Cork. Hey, Paul, stick around. I happen to have a story of some of your fellow country people coming up in a little bit. But back to things like cryptocurrency and blockchain and all that. Speaking of which, Bank of America is also filing a patent for a blockchain-based processing system. So even as these companies are not necessarily directly getting into Bitcoin and some of the alternative currencies, blockchain, the system that's behind that, is really moving into a lot of sectors. Now, it seems obvious for you that it would be in something like the payment and financial sectors, but it's going into other places too, real estate, land titles, all kinds of things. What the internet was in the 1990s when we were like, I don't get it, what's this web thing, this transfer of information and data? Blockchain is about the transformation of value and also decentralizing a whole bunch of stuff that is right now held by a few small set organizations. And this disaggregation is going to allow for a lot more opportunity. It's going to change the pricing of things, and it's going to change your business. That's why I keep hammering it home. Let's look at something else, though. This is a crazy trend. I couldn't believe this was coming. McDonald's is trying out, and a whole bunch of other restaurants, daily paychecks for their employees. So to help with millennials and help them try to figure out what's going on, Outback Steakhouse, several dozen other food and hospitality retailers, they're using daily paychecks to help their lower wage people take on and have more flexibility in their finances. I just find that nuts. I can't even imagine what that's going to entail on the whole side of building out business and accounting practices and whatnot to handle daily paychecks. But it's something worth looking at. And the other reason to look at it is it something that might help you get the kind of help you need to hire? What changes in your business if there's daily paychecks? What other kinds of systems are in place? When you ask for money from customers, what kind of payment plans might need to exist in a world that has daily paychecks? This story is kind of fun. Speaking, Paul, I told you, Irish whiskey made entirely by women. So there's a new whiskey company in Ireland, and it's made entirely by women. This is in County Clare. It is called Chapelgate, founded in 2015, the only all-female Irish whiskey company in the world. So this one is Louise McGuane, I don't know. We are the first whiskey bonder in Ireland in 50 years and are proud to have brought this way of making Irish whiskey back. Rather than distilling it themselves, they're actually sourcing the whiskey from third-party distilleries and then maturing it on site. So that is pretty cool. And it's at 60 pounds for a bottle right now. So, I mean, it's certainly not the least expensive. I can tell you that there's a lot there. But hey, go women and go really cool thing. Switching back, there's no great segue between these stories, but I saw this story, and it's pretty rare that the U.S. government issues warnings about cybersecurity, so I wanted to put this one in front of you as well. The U.S. is warning that there's going to be some kind of attacks on both energy grid and also industrial firms. You might or might not know this, but there's a lot more vulnerability out there to cyber hacking than we think, and that these targets are becoming more and more on the radar for not only government but non-government entities. And to think about this is saying that they may or may not attack huge huge chunks of the power grid and or large industrial entities. And so I think it's just a nuts situation that we have to pay attention to, and we're going to want to look into that a little bit further. But the world has definitely kind of become different, hasn't it? This article in Business Insider was talking all about Hong Kong's quote-unquote coffin cubicles. Now, I had read in the late 80s the book Neuromancer, and Neuromancer talked about this future in places like Japan, and these are real, live, living spaces for people in Hong Kong. Look at the size of this thing. It is a little bit bigger than the person's body. The picture is set from them, shooting down from their head at level and all that. I'm going to show you a couple more examples. This series is titled Trapped, but these are real living spaces for people in Hong Kong that are just a little bit larger than their body. This one was insane to me because of the metal sides and everything like that. I mean, not that one kind of side makes it better or worse than another, but this is almost like one of those things in the back of a truck. So to me, that's a crazy scenario. So I just wanted to show this because this is Hong Kong, but just as easily, this could be San Francisco. This could be some of the other major cities. And then more interestingly to me, if we are thinking that we have to stack up so tightly and that's all a human can afford in a city like that, why aren't rural entities making even more of a push to say, look, we got all the room in the world here. Let's set up our businesses around these places. Because jobs don't have to be in big major cities anymore. Because anywhere that there's really good internet is one good opportunity to bring a bunch of people to a location and make a good system out of it. And that was something I covered with MongoDB, the fact that they set up a database company in New York as opposed to Silicon Valley. There are lots of innovations to where we can set up our businesses these days. But things are getting crazy and we're getting inundated with far too much to look at, far too much to pay attention to. Target says that what they're going to do this holiday season is keep their advertising a lot simpler. They're not going to overwhelm as much as they have. They're not going to make really complicated sales because what they're saying is that more and more people are just feeling overwhelmed and inundated. So they've had some declines in sales, even as other entities like Walmart and Amazon have gone up. But Target's saying that we're going to still have meaningful promotions, but we really just have to avoid promotions fatigue and give people a reason to deal with what they're going to deal with and why they're going to show up there. That's interesting to me for a lot of levels. If information fatigue is something that advertisers are saying they're worried about, you've really got to think about that. Because usually they're the kind that are just really thrilled to beat people until they do what they need them to do. And if even they are starting to realize that there's information fatigue, we're on to something. Speaking about being onto something, people at the Guardian in the UK were asking a whole bunch of questions about whether or not this whole vegan thing was just a fad or not. Like, there's a lot more and more news. And as you know, one of the things I cover a lot on the brief are plant-based stories. And there's a lot of reasons to that. One is that I've chosen to eat plant-based for mostly a lot of environmental reasons. I think that the real estate required to create animal protein is just far too much. I think there's a lot of scenarios where there's a lot of opportunity to improve your health and improve the health of the planet with plant-based. It's not that I care so much about animals. I would still punch an animal in the mouth, but I think that there's a lot of good reasons to eat plant-based. So the Guardian said, well, is this all a big hype or, what's going on? And so they took a look into it. Has veganism become big business is the article. Very interesting article. There's a lot to it. I'm not going to cover it all, but there's a whole lot of information. For instance, in Great Britain, last year, 542,000 Britons considered themselves vegan, up from 150,000, which is a rise of about 11%. There's all kinds of people saying that the rise is higher for the under 35s and that there's a lot more people. This quote says, Emma Clifford, a food and drink analyst at Mintel, plant proteins have gained a lot of traction in the UK in recent years, thanks to associations with naturalness, and nutritious credentials. So that's one thing that a lot of people are saying. It's not necessarily to be specifically vegan, but that plant-based, because Oreo cookies are vegan, and that doesn't mean they're especially healthy. I had already reported on Le Cupboard the other day, pointing out that there's a really interesting, quote, fast food delivery of plant-based foods, really nutritious foods. And what they're saying is that they want to have really quick, fast processed, healthy foods. This is because one thing she's saying, the reason she went with vending machines, was she said stores aren't rooted in the mobile reality of today. People are moving around a lot. They need to be close to their food. They want to get it on the go. And what they're saying is, I don't want to have somebody pay for my real estate. I want to have them pay for their food. So there are real big changes on that. So this is really, really interesting and worth checking out. And The Guardian going out that extra level just to see if it wasn't just hype was very fun to me. And I'll take that right into another story about plant-based protein, one especially that I was kind of like, look, we know that veggie burgers aren't all that super delicious. Well, now they're working on plant-based shrimp. One reason is that a lot of people don't necessarily like burgers. A lot of people maybe don't like veggie burgers, but they think that there's also a way to do plant-based shrimp. So one of the ways that they're looking at that, by the way, there's a lot of people with allergies and a lot of environmental and or religious challenges to that. But this quote unquote cutting edge science says that they're making a taste that is going to taste a lot closer to that flavor. Raul points out he's not a very big fan of shrimp either. So this whole idea that is they're going to have plant-based shrimp, sort of a veggie shrimp, my immediate reaction is more like, I don't know about this. But I can tell you that it's interesting to consider, especially because, the majority of veggie product right now that's protein mimicry is veggie burgers and veggie chicken. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they need a plant-based shrimp. What do I know? What does this have to do with health, though? Well, the University of Alabama in Birmingham. I've been to Birmingham, Alabama. What an innovative city. What a great place. Talk about I said in the story of Hong Kong, we got to go out to some better places and really have better connections with, settings that aren't your normal thought of places for startups. Birmingham is one of them. They had a story that a plant-based diet converted breast cancer in mice from a lethal form to a treatable form. By simply changing the dietary choices in mice, certain breast cancers started to react very differently, according to a study by researchers at the University of Alabama. They say that a very specifically plant-based diet might be the key. So with the whole circumstances in this, it is very interesting to think of the fact that many people might benefit in the sense of even changing whether or not your cancer is treatable from a plant-based diet. When you read something like that and you're still not even thinking about it, or you're like, oh, that's bourgeois, or that's for hippies, or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how to help you after that, but I think it's an interesting story, and it's really go University of Alabama and Birmingham as well. That's awesome news. Last but not least, what's your password right now? You should just type it into the comments. Passwords are important. I talked about cybersecurity earlier. There's an old comic from XKCD that talked about a really cool way to make passwords, and someone sent this to me. I think it might have been John Ackley sent this to me. This is a password generator based on that XKCD comic. So again, you can find this at chrisbrogan.com/cbm. It's all the way down the bottom of my list of links this week. But this is so really fun. You could basically set up all the different kinds of things. Do you want 3 words? Do you want 4 words? Do you want them from the English dictionary? Do you want to change, the different cases? So you click any of these little pluses and you can change. What language is only in English right now, but they haven't plans to expand it. And you could basically create a password. So I'll see I don't even know what the choices were up above, but I will generate a password based on this and see what it says for me. I can't remember. What else do I have to hit? Load, save, config, padding symbols. I don't know what I have to do to make it say I'll say I just want 2 passwords. How come it's not generating? Oh, I don't know. I can't remember. But I did this once already, and I made some really fun passwords for myself, and you should check it out yourself. That's it. That's all the news I have for you. Again, go to chrisbrogan.com/cbm and you can check these stories all out for yourself right here, chrisbrogan.com/cbm. The way I'm making this story is I'm using Ecamm Live. It's the best way to do Facebook Live for Mac. I'm so happy for your time. If you have stories you want me to cover on the brief, if you have any other questions, or you need some help moving forward with your business based on this information, drop me a line, chris@chrisbrogan.com. Always happy to help and work with you.